someone hires me to film them a couple games and then do like a hype reel or a mixtape of some sort or a recruiting video, and they weren't very good because they were too nervous because they knew they were being filmed, well, I'm just gonna, work my magic and hopefully no one's the wiser. All right, welcome back to the latest episode of Game Day Glare. I am with, as usual, Lance, the brains behind this operation. How are you doing, Mr.
I'm doing
Brains?
good. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm glad I got to see you the other day filming the Alouettes game.
True.
I was up high and you were down low. So we got a quick little 2 seconds wave to each other, and then it was all right, let's get back to work.
To be honest, I still wasn't, until I saw the footage that I filmed of you from very far with my camera. I still wasn't sure it was actually you that I was filming. I was like, yeah, he's in that little thing up there. Not even the nosebleeds. You were like behind the nosebleeds.
Yeah, I was like on top of the bleachers in this tempo that I had to take a ladder up to get to it.
So is there a floor? Like, how does that work? Like,
yeah, there was like a little deck underneath me. But it was like a rainy, windy day, right? So it was a little scary up there, and I'm not a big fan of heights, so it is what it is, right?
Some type of harness or not?
No. You know me, I don't play it safe. We've already gone over this on this show. They need the shots. They send me up to get the shots, and that's it. That's all. No, but it was fun. I hadn't done a CFL game in a while. And it was just a coincidence that you were working. And I also saw Vinny, who was one of our guests on our show. And I haven't really spoken to Vinny since our episode. So it was nice to see him. Nice to see you. Yeah, I saw you were testing some new gear there. Is it still top secret, or is it announced now, or what's up?
No, by the time this comes out, the video will be out. Not that the camera is top secret. Camera's been out already. But it's Sony ZV-10 Mark II. And so I didn't get it, unfortunately, before it came out, but I got it pretty quickly after that, because when it came out, I texted my contact at Sony Canada, and I think she called me back, I want to say 10 days later or something. And so she basically gave it to me for a few days before she then had to go to all the, the local shops and do our rep thing, showing them all the features and all that stuff. So I had sort of a first swing at it, which was pretty cool. And it's great. Very, especially for the price, because it's less than, because my rule for budget cameras has always been like any mirrorless camera under $1,000 US. To me qualifies as a budget camera. So, and that one is $998. So.
I don't know, look pretty nice. They're pretty nice. I saw it was a white, the one you had. It was yeah. It looked pretty sweet with your lens on it too, your white lens. So and your white vest, of course.
Exactly. I like to do things differently. I like to stand out.
I actually worked with a new camera not too long ago. Well, not a new camera. It's been out for a while, but I used it in a new way. It was a Ronin 4D. Oh, yeah. I filmed baseball, and it was a baseball tournament. And they had me as like B-roll shots, and I was running after players on the bases, like behind them. Like just I'd follow them from hitting the ball to like first base, and sometimes I'd cheat and go a little bit towards second base to make sure I was out of the play though.
So would you even run? You would even run inside the diamond?
Yeah, I would run a little bit
first and second, and
it was like Pee Wee baseball, so like they were 10, 12 years old, so it wasn't that bad. But yeah, some really cool shots, but I realized I'm out of shape because running with that camera for a full baseball game, that was tough. It was tough, man. My back was sore, my legs were sore after. But definitely some cool shots, but like it's kind of hard to hold it because like you're kind of holding the camera out the whole time, and as you're running with it, so it's kind of like an awkward position, but it was definitely fun testing that camera. Yeah, it's actually a lot heavier than what we're used to. Like our Sony cameras are a lot lighter. So I'd say it's equivalent to having like your Sony camera on a gimbal and maybe having an external monitor. It'll probably weigh about like that. Yeah. So actually, we didn't even introduce today's topic. So why don't you tell everyone what we're talking about today, since this is all your idea. This is all your idea.
My forte. This is We're talking about ethics. So, yeah, like copyrights, privacy, respect of the fans when you're filming, the parents, the kids when you're filming kids, athletes, professionals they're also entitled to some level of privacy and ethics, within our edits. Sorry, I'm babysitting a cat at the moment, so there's a few weird noises going on around here. But apparently, everything is a toy in my house. I didn't know. Now I know.
Well, now I
So
know
yeah,
because I was wondering. I saw you looking around. I'm like, he's looking at something. I'm like, I know last week his neighbor was drilling in his basement. Is that going on again, or is
yeah,
that
no,
finally
not at
over?
this time. Well, no, they still are. We're just recording late.
So, how big is your neighbor's basement to be drilling every time we have a show?
That's what I'm wondering because it's been 3 weeks now, and they're still going. And a couple of days ago, a neighbor was, as neighbors do, like, so how things are going, blah blah. And they're like, oh, we're halfway there. I was like, halfway there?
Halfway.
What? Jesus Christ! And the
Wow.
worst part is that this is the second time because they've done it once, and once it was finished, the owner brought. I can't believe I'm going so deep into this on the
Yeah, exactly.
podcast.
Viewers are invested now in your neighbor's
Yeah,
basement. They're like,
exactly.
screw sports videography. Let's go into construction.
Yeah, but what happened was like they did this whole thing was supposedly done, and then the owner brought his friend who's an engineer, a structural engineer, and he stepped in and said, "This is all wrong. You have to start again." And then nothing happened during 4 months, which now understands because they were fighting because no one wanted to pay for to get it redone, and I don't know who's paying, but they're going at it again.
Oh, someone's
This
paying
is
because
my
I hear
life.
that. I hear that jackhammer during some of our discussions.
Yes, so do I every day.
All right, so let's get to ethics. So since E already told us he doesn't have any, we're gonna throw the first question at him. So when you're filming, what's the most important thing to do? Considering something ethical is like get consent, I guess, or what do you usually do when you're going to film an event?
No comment. I don't recall. No, but well, depends. What were we talking about? We're talking like filming a game.
I mean, with athletes, fans, respecting their privacy. Like I know in my camera bag, I have a couple consent forms that I do fill out. If I'm filming in the crowd and stuff like that, or if I'm going to use somebody in like an intimate moment, I have in the past asked them to sign a consent form. Usually, like obviously, when you're with a major league team, you're in the arena. It's kind of, I think it's written on your tickets even now that your image and the game images and all that belong to the league. So that kind of is a gray area, I guess, right? Because fans aren't expecting to be filmed, but they can be filmed and their images can be used. But when you're doing smaller venues, that's when you have to really pay attention.
Hmm. Well, I think now it's much more complicated now because everybody's filming, right? It used to be that like if there's a camera in the venue, then it's a big thing and it had to be announced. The rule used to be, and I say used to be because I have no idea how things evolve now that everybody has a camera, but it used to be that like if you're filming at a public event, whether it's a sporting event or a music concert, whatever, there needed to be a sign that people can't miss. So basically, on the way in, that would say you're being filmed, or in the context of like a hockey game, is usually on the jumbotron, and it would come up a few times, and it says, yeah, you're being filmed. If you got a problem, here's the number or the email that you can reach out to make sure that we don't use your content. But now, because everybody's got cameras in there, I think you still need to do that if you're working on a commercial project. But if you're filming, your local 12-year-old soccer team, I don't think you have to go that far. But in saying that, I would say to answer your original question, like what I do with adults, I'll be honest, I don't do anything. I don't have any forms in my backpack. I don't really.
No, not
Obviously,
even
if
just in
I'm
case.
there,
Just in case.
well, if I'm there, it's because like if I'm there, it's because someone hired me to be there. So it's their problem. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's their job to make sure. If I'm going somewhere that I'm not too sure if we'll be allowed to film, I'll definitely, raise it with them beforehand, saying like, "Are you sure we'll be allowed? Because this is I don't know. It's just like, let's say we're filming something and like, oh, let's go into a store and do this, or let's go into a public park and do that." I'm like, are you sure we'll be able to? But it's on them. But if I'm doing something for beyond the game, well, to be honest, it's a similar situation because I'll be at a professional sporting event anyway. But my point was like the only time that I will sort of make sure that everybody's on board and that everything is by the book is if I'm working with minors, because that's, you know, obviously you can't just show up and start filming minors, especially if you're a single man like I you could end up in jail very quickly. So I don't, and also because I've experienced it in Australia where for religious reason, some kids you're just not allowed to film. So usually, if I was doing, for example, I've done videos in the past. It was like a community program for like a state-funded. I think it was cricket, and yeah, it was, and so they wanted to do like promos and stuff, and so we would film the kid do all the different activities, but beforehand they obviously asked the parents, and there was like 4 or 5 parents that said like, oh, you can't film my kids, so they would tell me which kids it is, and obviously they would end up at some point in the background in one of my shots, but I would sort of make a note to not put them in the edit, basically.
I've had a couple run-ins. So most recently in the spring, I was filming a hockey tournament, and I wanted to get a shot of like on top of the bench, over the bench, of the kid's reaction to a goal. So now the tournament's hired me to film. So I put a GoPro. There's glass behind their bench. I put the GoPro above the kids so that I can catch the reaction. And I have a mom come up to me and she accuses me of stealing their plays as they are headed to the finals. And I must be working for the team that they're playing against in the finals. So I said, no, ma'am. I said, actually, I'm just here trying to get reactions of the win. I said, so this is my shot. And I showed her on my GoPro, on my app. I stopped filming and I showed her what the angle was. And I explained to her. She said, okay. Then she chased me down and said, your GoPro's not working anymore. You're not going to get the shot. I said, no, my screen goes off after 2 minutes. She's like, oh, okay, because we were all looking at your screen. So then she was okay with it, I thought. Then I go into the office to download some footage because I had another camera going, and she comes to complain about me but didn't know I was there. And she's like, there's some guy and he's filming the kids. And they're like, yeah, we've hired him. He's our videographer. So anyway, I made sure as I was filming, I let the parents know that I'm here to film the event and they're going to be showing it later on Facebook, and everyone was pretty good with it. Now, I actually had to go for a police screening with Hockey Canada, to work for Hockey Canada, because it's a requirement when working with young children. So that was okay. Like, you just go to a police station, you fill out these forms, they do a background check, and then you're allowed to go. But while filming for Hockey Canada, I filmed this really great event. Bauer gave all these kids free equipment, and there were some kids that didn't all want to. They all signed consent forms, and some kids did not want to be on camera. So what I did as a little hack is we put a piece of tape on their helmets, so I knew which kids to not film. Now, there was some chances where sometimes they're in the background, so either I blurred them out or I didn't use those shots. And it always gets tricky, right? Because you want to respect them, but sometimes you have this great shot and you're like, oh, damn, that kid's in the shot. So I'd blur him out, or I'd crop in a little bit so you can't really see him. I know it's him, but maybe they won't realize. So it's always tricky, especially with children. Yeah, with adults, it's not really a big deal. I've rarely had people tell me they don't want to be on camera. When I'm filming the Canadians games, they just always want to be on camera.
Yeah. Exactly.
They're literally, I'm like filming a play and they're like, can you put me on camera after? Can you put me on camera? So that's not an issue at all with adults, but it's more with children and respecting their privacy. And it's tough. So the more you film, the more you're going to know how to make that call. And you're going to be able to read people, but that's why I have consent forms in it. And I always suggest now when I'm working an event and that, I always ask my clients like, hey, have you asked? Have you already sent out consent forms, stuff like that? And people are getting more and more used to it now, so it really helps.
So the consent form, like, is it something? Is it legal? Like, did you write it yourself, or is it like, how does that work?
I have a template that I got from a business coach that I worked with a long time ago, and I just kind of updated it. And when I'm working with people, if they don't have one, I'll offer to just kind of update it and put their company name in and stuff like that and send it to them. If you want, I'll send you a copy of it since, you did send me your sports LUT pack. So now it's time that I send you my consent pack, okay?
Exactly. Consent pack. That sounded wrong.
That's it. No, but it is tricky, right? Like, you're there to do a job and to film a sport, and kids are part of this, and you just want to make sure everyone's comfortable. So you're gonna run to the occasional person that doesn't want to be on camera, doesn't want to be in your video, and you just respect them and leave them out. Sometimes you got to throw away a good shot because they tell you a little late or something like that. But hey, it's the nature of the beast. That's how it is, and that's why we're having this episode on ethics, because I know, that you don't care. You just put everyone in your YouTube videos and you're like, hey, sorry, buddy, you're in my way.
No, but it's just like, for me, it's like, I'm just thinking, if I'm working for a client, to me it's the client's responsibility. If I'm there for myself, like, let's say I'm just showing up to games, building up my portfolio, then yeah, I can see how now it's on me to respect people. And of course, if I'm just showing up to a random basketball game where I don't know anyone, just to build up my portfolio, for sure I would ask them, like, do you guys mind if I start filming? Because otherwise I just look like the weirdest creep. But but there's been occasions a bit like you where I get hired by the league, I show up there, I start filming, but there's no one from the league that's there, and they're just looking at me like, "Who's that dude? Like, why is he filming?"
Yeah, exactly.
But if my camera's like looks good enough, they're like, "Oh, sweet, we're gonna be on Instagram," and like, where. But yeah, it just depends on the context.
What I find is the parents don't want the kids to be on camera, but the kids who aren't supposed to be on camera want to be on camera because they're always trying to get in your shot and they're always there. And the kids don't know, but some parents are just have like, I want my kids off social media. I don't want them being seen. And hey, we respect that. And that's the way it is. Now, that's only one part about ethics. That's just, the introduction part, right? Because there's so many things in our business that can be unethical. So what do you think the next unethical thing would be in sports videography?
Well, the only thing I can think of is a little conversation we had the other day, or was it a few minutes ago before we started recording? We talked about editing and whether it's ethical or unethical to mislead people. Let's say I'm filming a game and I'm there specifically for a team who played very poorly, or a player who played very poorly, and then I use just bits and pieces to make him look way better than he was. I do that all day, every day, so I don't really see a problem with it. But I guess it depends what your role is. If you're the team videographer, like if you're trying to produce an accurate game recap, if you're working for a professional, especially like a professional team who's putting their game recaps on YouTube, you can't make it look like you had a good game if you didn't. Like, that's obviously, it's not gonna work because millions of people know you didn't. But if someone hires me to film them a couple games and then do like a hype reel or a mixtape of some sort, or a recruiting video, and they weren't very good because they were too nervous because they knew they were being filmed, well, I'm just gonna work my magic, and hopefully no one's the wiser.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in highlight tapes, you're going to mislead people because you're always trying to make people look better than they are, right? Um, but it is tricky. Like, you don't want to edit like a guy shooting a jump shot from half court and all of a sudden you cut to a close up of a swish, and you're like, when the guy, I know you've done it, but you could do it once in the edit. You can't do it every shot.
No.
You know what I mean?
No,
But yeah,
it's
it's
drop 40.
That's it. But when you work for a team, you're trying to make your team look like they're the best. And, I worked in hockey a long time, and there's been seasons where our team has not been the best. But if you watch the playoff video, not playoff videos, because there are no playoffs those years. But if you watch the pump up video before the game, yeah, our team looks like they're the best. So it's tricky. I mean, I guess there's limitations. Like if you, every time this one guy runs and you do it at like 120%, you make him look super fast every time. Well, you kind of go over that exaggeration. Hopefully the viewer is smart enough to realize that you're emphasizing certain things, and they realize that this isn't the real speed of the game or how accurate that player actually is. But I mean, when you're filming sports, you highlight key moments, right? So you're not going to purposely always make that player look better than they are. At least I wouldn't see the point of it. I would try to, if I'm covering a game and a player's not playing good, well, I'm going to find something else to kind of, maybe I'll spend more time on them, their pregame routine or warm up, or their passing instead of their shooting if it's basketball, or if it's baseball and he's not doing good at the plate, well, hopefully he does some stuff fielding that I can show instead of their batting. There's ways around it, but I'm not going to make someone look like they're MVP when they're not even really playing well. At least I'm thinking I won't have the shots anyway to try and make them look better than they are.
Yeah. Well, I think like for a game recap, I'm 100% with you. But if I'm doing a highlight reel, I'm all into the entertainment side of things. I don't really care, to be honest, about what really happened. It's just about making a piece of entertainment that's just exciting from start to finish, and yeah, whatever I need to do for that to happen, I will do. It's in certain reason, but to me, it's the same as, it's like I'm making a movie, and there's nothing real about a movie. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just I'm using these things and I'm trying to make them work, and to be honest, most of the time, especially like if I'm telling some sort of story, it's not the positive stuff that I exaggerate the most. It's the negative, because you need some type of negative sometimes to overcome and to make you look good, and then it's usually that, like, oh, like, let's say you won, you won 4-3, but in reality you were like dominating the entire game. Well, in the video you'll make it look like it was a super close game and it was back and forth, and maybe you'll change the order of the goals so that it's always like they were up and then you were catching, when in reality you were leading. And I don't know, things like that just makes it more exciting. And that's what movies do, that's what reality TV does. And like all these things, like it's never right. Like at the core, like the core is the real thing, but everything around it, the way they dress, the way they talk, the way they do things, everything is fake. So it's sort of using the real footage and turning it into something spectacular, basically. So I'm not saying everybody should do what I do, but personally, once I get the footage in my computer, it stops being a soccer game or a hockey game, whatever, and it starts being my TV show.
So what about interviews? Now, when you cut up someone's interview, there's times where I'll cut out pieces and I'll make the conversation shorter and stuff like that, but I'll never put words in people's mouths. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I won't cut out one part where they say something and put it in another part and make it sound like they're saying a completely different sentence. Where, like you see that on the news a lot. You see that sometimes on social media. Some people do it for fun and it's funny, and there's things, you can get some really good clips out of it. But when you're trying to represent a team or a person, it's very important to kind of keep their context as best as possible. You see this a lot with quotes online, right? You'll see a quote, and people will take out part of it and make it sound like something else. And it's very easy for us to do that too when we're editing. You cut up someone's interview and you throw some B-roll on it and it sounds like they said that sentence. So I think that's really, when you're talking about editing and ethics and that, I think that's more of a faux pas than actually, making someone look like they're shooting the lights out that night when they went like 3 for 10 or something,
Yeah.
Putting words in people's mouths, I think, is a lot more dangerous.
Well, I've never because I don't really know what context that would work. Because usually if I'm cutting up an interviews, because I'm either working for that, they're my clients, or I'm doing a well. Imagine if I was doing a story on someone, I could potentially try to control the narrative. But no, for me it's more when I'm editing I'll definitely cut some words and join two answers and do all of that. But it's not to change the meaning of what they're saying. It's just to make two long answers that are kind of boring into one succinct, to the point, short and interesting answer. So, because usually people ramble and then, they talk about the same thing in two or three different answers. So you put it all together, you get the best bits and the most emotional ones as well that look good on camera. And then that's sort of the purpose of doing that. But I'm not changing what they're saying. And sometimes I do the opposite as well, which is just spread out. Like I do this, like sort of just use the best bits, but I don't necessarily just put it all in one go. I'll let you know I'll let some breathing in between, a couple words, then just a little pause, a couple words, a little pause. I'll space it all out so that it's a bit more dramatic and lets the viewer like absorb the information and sort of wait for what's coming and creates tension and all that. So I'll control the
Timing.
the speech that way, yeah, but I don't change what they're saying per se.
Yeah, in sports videography, you don't really need to do that. I mean, you see it online, but it's mostly clickbait, right? And then when you see the clip of people saying some crazy stuff, sometimes 9 out of 10
Yeah.
times later on, you see the real clip and you're like, oh, okay, so they just cut this up this way to make
Yeah.
it sound
Well,
like
now
this
with
person's
AI
up.
as well, it's even more
Oh,
confusing.
yeah.
Sometimes you're listening to a clip on Instagram, like, what is going? Oh yeah, no, I know what's going on.
Actually, have you seen the basketball clips of guys talking after the games in the playoffs? Like they
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah. There's like a
like I'm the
Luka
best white
Doncic
guy in the
one.
league, you
Yeah,
know?
there's a Anthony Edwards one. There's a few. Or they're just like going off, and you're like, Jesus Christ, and then you realize, oh no, that's not him.
So where do you find that? You think that's like teetering the ethics
Oh,
line, or
definitely.
people understand it's supposed to be funny, right?
Well, yeah, when it's that over the top, yeah, you get caught for the first 10 seconds, 15 maybe, but at some point you realize, and if you don't, it's because you find it so, like, let's say you're a hater of that particular athlete, you're so excited about the fact that he's messed up that you just want to believe. Because that's the other thing, like especially on the internet, like when people really want to believe something, they'll believe it. It doesn't matter how wrong it is, how obviously fake it is. If you really want to believe it for whatever reason, you will believe it. So yeah, there's a lot of that going on. So how do you stop people from believing stuff? How do when you have all these fake things? Because now even I think Artlist does like
Yeah, they
an
have a fake
AI
voiceover.
like voice,
Yeah.
yeah, voiceover thing. So like now I don't know how good it is. I haven't tried it yet, but anybody can fake anybody basically. So it's a bit scary.
It's getting tougher. It's definitely getting tougher. I mean, if you look at stuff that you see online that's viral, well, that's where you get those guys pushing the boundaries, Sports highlights, so you're really not really pushing the boundaries that much, but it's just to make sure that you don't cross those lines, by misrepresenting people. And you, because you want to work for that team again, or you want to work for those other people again, so you try and make sure that their message stays as close to what they said as possible.
So what would you do if you were recording an interview with a player, client, whatever, and they're saying something? They're either like going off with tons of f bombs, or they're going into a topic that they're happy to put out there, but you're like, he's gonna be in so much trouble. Something like, what would you
Yeah, I'm probably not using part of that interview then. I'll
do?
leave that stuff out. I mean, obviously I've had players swear, you and we swear when we talk sometimes.
I
And
never swear.
yeah, exactly. And it's the second we press record, that's when you stop swearing.
I swear in
Um,
French.
that's it.
Doesn't
Uh,
count.
I just leave that stuff out if I can, I
Yeah.
mean, or I'll emphasize it with a nice beep so you understand that they swore. If it's something that you really want them to talk about, then yeah. But when they go off on a topic that isn't really what we want, or that viewers there might be some backlash on, I'll just leave that out. And if you're working for a sports team, you know what they want to see, you know what they don't want to see. And if you don't, you're gonna find out pretty fast, because your marketing, the head of marketing or whoever will call you right away and be like, hey, you can't air that clip. Because when you do work for pro sports teams, your stuff has to get approved. When you have your own businesses like us, well, the approval process isn't as long, right? Like 9 out of 10 time clients are pretty happy with the way that things are right off the bat. In pro sports, yeah, you're not going to be able to show stuff like that, because
But even
marketing and
in
all that.
pro sports, like you're much closer to a professional sports team these days than I am. Like tweets, Instagram, like all the social media stuff. How much approval goes into that? Because I'm guessing at first when you're starting, there's a lot, but once you've been doing it for a couple of years, I'm assuming people know what you're doing, and then they give you a bit more freedom, and then that's when you eventually mess up because you had one too many beers.
That's how it kind of is. I mean, they check your accounts. Like, I mean, even this show, I'm sure people at work check our show just to make sure that we're not saying certain things and that. There's always someone constantly looking, and honestly, everybody's waiting for you to mess up, especially when you're in pro sports. Like, people are waiting. So most of these kids nowadays, they grew up with social media. They know what's right. They know what's wrong. They know what they could post, what they can't post. And the second they go out of line, then they have to do apology right away. PRs on it right away. Like, it becomes a big, big deal, and you put out that fire as soon as possible.
But what if you're the person who does the team's Instagram? Like how much, like if you're gonna post something on the Canadians official
Oh, you're
Instagram
in charge of that.
account, yeah,
Yeah.
like who do you have to get it approved by management every time you're posting?
No, I mean, I haven't dealt with that in a while, like with them per se, but the way it used to be was they had a person that was their job. They were trusted. And if things went wrong, well, that person was the one who would have to answer to if something was posted that wasn't right. Just like I know I've run other companies' social media accounts for them. Like, so I create the content and I would be posting. And if there's a spelling mistake or if there's something, then I'm the one who's in trouble for it. And it works the same way in pro sports teams. Eventually, there is one person who's in charge of that, and the axe falls on them if there's mistakes, for sure, for sure. But I mean, everyone's pretty good at double checking, triple checking the work. And especially nowadays, you can run your stuff on programs and make sure that there's no mistakes and that. But sometimes views do get miscued, right?
Yeah, because sometimes it's not necessarily like a mistake. It's more like a bad idea. Like
Yeah.
there's been ideas in the past that, at the time, everybody in the room thought it was funny, but then when it got implemented, turned out didn't work. And wasn't there like a thing where no, but wasn't there a thing like where you would get an automatic reply and it would put your name in the reply, so people started putting fake names and it quickly like turned like super racist and homophobic and all that sort of stuff. And the Canadians were doing, if maybe it wasn't the
I
Canadians,
don't
but
remember.
whoever was doing it, it was like all these tweets that were coming on the official account.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, that turned, took a left turn pretty quick. Probably something that they worked on for months. And,
No, the last big thing was there was a backlash over a player who we drafted because he had got in trouble before the draft, and then they had to send out stuff saying like, "Hey, we're giving this kid a second chance. He's working on himself. He's doing this stuff and all that." And it's crazy in pro sports how you constantly have to explain yourself, why you're doing stuff, and that you can't just pick somebody because they're a good player. You always have to go back to what have they done in the past? Are they the right person right now? And you always get a lot of backlash online. So whoever's managing those accounts is, up for the task, but it's not an easy task because you're never going to agree with everybody online. So it is what it is, right? You try your best to do that. Now, even like talking about content online and that, what do you do when someone steals your footage online? Because I'm sure that's a big thing. Like YouTube, we can go on YouTube right now. I can use KeepVid and I can download pretty much any YouTube video that I want. Is stealing someone's footage or a team's footage and re-editing yourself, is that ethical or not?
Well, it's not if you don't ask permission. It's stealing, but depends what you're doing with it at the end of the day. Like, it's because if someone's stealing my content because they want to use the sports stuff in there to do like a little NBA edit for fun and be my guest. There's been people who's like, especially it was a short that I did. It wasn't even. It's not like it went viral. It's probably got like 3 or 4 thousand views, which for a short is not crazy. And there's been a lot of people because when someone copies your video, you see it. There's like if you go in your YouTube studio, I don't know about the other platforms, but on YouTube, like in the YouTube studio, there's a copyright tab, and there you'll see like the videos that I've copied you, and you see like it'll even say like, did it take 100% of your video or 20% and stuff, and then you can click on the link and they'll show you their video, and then you can reach out to them or you can just block them or whatever. But my point is just like I've seen people just every time I've seen someone copy my video, they just literally took my video, put it on their channel, and act as if it was theirs. Usually they get like 5 views, so I don't really see the point of trying to fight them or block their channel. Like, do I really want to get into a fight with someone and risk potentially them trying to do the same thing to me somehow? And, it's like when someone sends you a spam email, like I don't want to answer because just even if I'd like to, give them shit or whatever, because I'm like, I don't want them to somehow this sort of falling bad and hurting me. So I just stay away from it. So I sort of have that same mentality with YouTube. But there was one that I just made a comment in his video because he was really acting as if like he was in the I can't remember if it was the title or the description, but he was really like making a point of saying that he made that video and that it was like one of his good ones or something like that. And people in the comments are like, "Oh yeah, nice edit, man." And he was like, "Oh yeah, thank you." I'm like, Jesus Christ. Oh my God. I just commented like, "Oh, it's funny. I wonder, like, it's such a good edit. It looks familiar. I wonder where I've seen it before." And I can't remember if he replied or not. I don't think he did. But otherwise, I haven't been catfished, but people have used my identity a couple times that I know of on Fiverr.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
app Fiverr, because they're trying to sell their services as someone who'll do like a sports video, for you for $50 or whatever. So they put my profile pic on the thing, and their intro video is basically they just ripped one of my videos from YouTube and put it out there, and they're trying to make it look like they're me, and I'm out there on Fiverr making sports videos for less than $100. So
How did you find out about that you were on Fiverr? Did they notify you, or someone notified you?
someone reached out to me saying, I thought I was hiring you, and then I realized it made no sense. So I thought I'd email you and let you know. I think someone's impersonating you. And I was like,
Someone's
yeah,
like, I can't believe you
yeah.
accepted $50 to do this project. Thank you.
Yeah, but again, like there were a few signs, like like the first name was different. Like they didn't use my name, even though in the video it says, "Hey, I'm E." But anyway, the whole thing was weird. But and the second time, I can't remember if someone reached out. Must have, because I don't really go on Fiverr. But I remember that the first time was pretty quick to get rid of it. The second time took longer. But yeah, there is people who will just bluntly just steal from you. So like anyway, to answer your original question, I think that if people take my content just to have fun, I don't really care. If they're trying to use my identity to make money, then I really have a problem, because then you've got people who, go on these apps thinking they're hiring me. So that's the problem. But and if people were using my footage to make money, let's say you're on YouTube and you're monetized, and then you're ripping my videos and putting them on your channel and making money from them, I would probably have a problem with that. But
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
never
You're doing all
happened
the
because
work.
usually, because there's usually the channels that use my videos, they have like 5 subscribers, and so it doesn't really bother me. But at the same time, that's what I try to explain to all the people who reach out to me about NBA footage and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, do it for fun. Don't do it for money. If you do it for fun, go like knock yourself out. But for money, and it's like the It's like when people think like, oh, what do they care? They're billionaires. It's like, well, they're billionaires because they protect their main asset, which is their intellectual property. If anyone can broadcast anyway NBA footage on YouTube, then the billions of dollars paid by TNT and now Amazon, all that is just, why would they pay if if the NBA was just giving it for free to anyone who wants to put videos on YouTube? The only value is the exclusivity. So of course they're not gonna let you use it. It's their number one source of income. Like it's not ticket sales. So yeah, so it is what it is. And but people like I find it funny how people want they like it goes back to what I was saying, like we believe what we want to believe. Like people want to believe that they can get rich doing NBA edits, so they're convinced that there's a way to do it. And the way to do it is to work for the NBA or work for a blog or a website or start your own thing and make a business out of it. But like you can't just steal content and make a profit. That's never going to happen. This is like going to a restaurant, just stealing food and saying, well, you've got plenty left. Why are you bothering me? Like that's not how things work. And just because you're behind the computer, it doesn't make it okay. It makes it harder to get you. And they're probably not going to sue you because why would they? They're just going to block you on YouTube and that'll be that. That's the other thing. The people who do care, are scared. They're always scared of being sued. I get so many people asking me like, am I going to get sued if I do this? Am I going to get sued if I do that? You're never going to get sued on YouTube. No one, everybody talks about it. I've never heard of anyone getting sued off YouTube. You're just going to get blocked. And that's, if you're taking YouTube seriously, that's a huge problem. And if you're not, then who cares?
No, but if you really want someone's shot, you can always message them and say, hey, I'm working on this project. I think your shot would be perfect in it. Can I use your shot? There's no harm in reaching out. Worst case, what are they going to say? No.
Yeah.
I have a hard time even using stock footage. If I'm doing something on YouTube that I'm posting on my YouTube channel, I don't even want to use stock footage. I want to film everything that I'm putting on there because I feel like almost guilty, like I'm a fraud by using this shot. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to go and steal someone else's shot and pretend it's mine either if I'm having a hard time using stock footage. I use it for client stuff if I'm stuck or whatever, but my own personal stuff, I want to show that, hey, I filmed this, I did that.
Yeah, if it's a show reel, yeah, it's a bit different.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But client stuff, I'll use some stock footage, but I would never go and take someone's shot and be like, hey, this was mine. And you know what? When you work for a team, there's this gray area. Yeah, I'm filming the shot, but I don't own what I'm filming.
That's another misconception.
Can I use that in my own edits? Yeah, I can use one or two shots, but I can't put together a full highlight and say, hey, look at me. This is what I filmed. What I do is when they do a nice edit, I'll share that edit and I can highlight my shots and stuff like that from it. But I can't just take all their raw footage and say, hey, look at this is my stuff. I put this together because at the end of the day, they own that footage. And it is a gray area that people think like, oh, you work for a pro sports team. So you can edit your own stuff all the time and all that. You can, but you don't have access to all that. Well, you have access to footage, but you can't use all that footage.
Yeah, it's not licensed.
No, exactly. And, you could film a great interview and you're like, oh, I want to share this on YouTube, but you can't. Because it's going with a certain project and you don't want to ruin it. You want to give away the surprise or whatever. And guaranteed, if you share that interview on your YouTube or on your socials, you're getting in trouble for that 100% from that team. You can maybe take a photo or a quick video of yourself as behind the scenes thing and share that on your socials. That's not a problem. But sharing the actual interview or highlights and make it your own. Yeah, if you're working for a pro sports team, you're going to get in trouble. If you're hired as a contractor, or if you're going to do your YouTube show and you're showing some highlights and all that, and they're aware of it, it's not a problem. But when you work for a team, it's tough. It's not stealing content, but you can't use the content as you would like.
Because a lot of people think that I've even had that conversation with videographers that are professional ones and are just assume that because I'm filming, I own the rights to everything I film and to every photo I take. I'm like, if you're if you're just a photographer and your photos are on the what's called the big the Getty thing, and people buy them from there, then yeah, they're yours technically. And for me, if I'm going to an event as myself and I'm filming and I've got permission from the teams or the league to film, then yes. But if I'm being paid to be somewhere and film, whoever's paying you owns that footage. That's the end of that
Yeah.
conversation. Whoever's paying owns everything. Like you're just you're just they're using you as a puppet to do something that they can't do themselves, but it's for them, it's not for you. Like, so otherwise all these cameramen filming the NBA would be rich, like selling LeBron James footage after after every Laker game. Like it doesn't work that way.
No, like, look, I've done 1,000 NHL games. I don't have the highlights from all the goals that I've scored.
Yeah.
The team does, but I don't have them, So if I do want some content, I've gone, I'll bring my own camera, say I'll film some warm-up shots or some player shots. That way, if I want to do something on my own, I'll go and I'll get the shots that I need on my own, not during my work time. And the work shots, if there is a highlight I need, then I would ask, hey, can I take this highlight, or I'll use this for this edit, and tell them about it. But there is a big misconception that people think that you work for a team, well, you have that footage, you could do with what you want with that footage. No, definitely not, because it's stealing content.
Well, a lot of people use their own equipment though, so sometimes you do have that footage at home, but doesn't mean you can use it necessarily. Or maybe you can, but you need permission.
I always thought about putting like a 360 camera on my camera and getting shots of me filming and them filming and all that, because I can't really get shots of me filming while I'm filming the game, because I'm filming for broadcast. I really got to pay attention, and I got people beside me, so I got no room for a little tripod
So
setup.
like, is this a dig at me because that's what I do? Like you're trying to say,
No,
I've got
actually,
time, I've got nothing else to do than to set up a second tripod facing me, looking awkward in front of thousands of people, judging me in silence.
I've judged you
You can't
before.
do what I do.
I judged you at the Alouettes game. I saw you with your little tripod showing off your white camera. No, but if you're a content creator, you have to do stuff like that, right? But when you're working in pro sports and you're working for the team, it's really tricky to get those shots while you're getting shots for them. Anyway, a little off topic, but I don't judge you for filming yourself while you're filming. It's okay. I've actually filmed you filming before for your YouTube. And
it's easier. Well, it's easier in every way.
Anytime I see you at an event, I have some screenshots of you that I don't know. I'm going to use them one of these days for something, but they're on my phone for now, and you don't even know that I caught you. Yeah, that's it.
Where was my consent form?
I'm sending you the package. I'm sending you the consent package. You'll sign it then. I think the biggest misconception too, well, the biggest issue with ethics and copyrights and all that, it's got to be with music.
Yeah.
Music, and as a video editor, especially for hype reels, stuff like that, it's one of the main things that people steal all the time. I try, when I work for a client, at least corporate stuff and that, I don't use anything mainstream. I'll use my Envato Elements or Motion Array or Epidemic Sound. I'll use music from there
for like a reel on Instagram.
Yeah, for them, because I don't want them to get in any trouble, and I don't want them getting blocked. I don't want any red tape for them. If I'm doing it for myself, I don't care. I'll grab a trendy song, I'll put it out there. I don't care if the music gets blocked in Russia and people can't see it there, because that's what the warning I always get. But for clients, I take on the responsibility. I have music rights. I have music licenses that I can get. I'll take the extra steps to make sure that they're covered. It's tricky. It's a gray area too, but it's gone a lot better, right? A couple of years ago, if you had anything that had like AC/DC, say for instance, and you put it on YouTube, it was blocked right away. Right away. Well, like
AC/DC is still the case though.
No, but you can have it on Instagram now and TikTok and stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's different. Yeah.
But why is
it different? All the 80s. Well, first of all, YouTube's a bit more strict because there's no. Well, I don't know now. With shorts might be different again, but because first of all, when you're talking like 80s rock, a lot of these bands are just blocking everything. Like on Facebook, yeah. Well, maybe on Facebook too, but I was gonna say on YouTube specifically. Like, and the reason for that is that there's all these political parties that are using their music in their background. Like they're using a lot of YouTube, a lot of Bon Jovi, a lot of, all those AC/DC, all that, and they're like, nah, no one. And I'm saying politicians, but there's armies and all these different terrorists and stuff. So they're blocking all this. They're blocking everything because they just don't want to be associated with nothing. And let's face it, it's not like they need the money. So if you try to use an AC/DC track in your YouTube video, it's gonna get blocked in about 18 seconds. But on Instagram, I'm not too sure how that works. But my understanding of Instagram is that as long as, because it used to be that like if I was doing an Instagram reel, I would use the music. I would go on Instagram to try to pick a music from the real app. And once I knew which song, I would screen record it on my phone and then use it in my edit so that it starts exactly at the same time, that it's at the same point in the song that it's going to start on Instagram. And then I would edit on it. But then when I export my edit, I would mute the music and upload my video to Instagram without music. And then I would use the music from Instagram to put the music track in that way. That was the way to not get any problems. Nowadays, as long as the song that you use is available on Instagram, which means that Instagram is paying some royalties on that track, you can just upload the music with your video, and Instagram is going to recognize that it's part of their library, and there won't be any issues. That's my understanding. And so far, I've never had any problems. But then again, TikTok was a similar thing, and even at some point, was it Universal or one of those big Sony, yeah, big companies, big record labels, and they basically they were playing hardball with TikTok and saying we're not signing that new contract or whatever. So like all their music became mute, and so everybody had half of their videos with no music, no audio actually, because the voice would disappear as well. So you never know. You never know.
They
what's
gave
gonna
you
happen.
suggestions though to replace it because I happened to copy mine, and those suggestions did not go with any of my edits, so I just deleted. I was like, oh well, this video's gone from TikTok.
Yeah. Well, I left it there. I left mine there, and eventually the music came back when
Really?
they signed the deal. Yeah, I
Oh,
think
so
so.
I
Maybe
was
not
just
all of them, but
impatient.
most of them. Because at some point it was like I must have been always using the same artists because there was at least 50% of my videos. But then they came back. Took a while, but
So when you use your music subscriptions, you just use it on your YouTube videos, not on your reels?
yeah. But what happens as well is that like a lot of my reels and shorts, they're you know uh, edited down version of my YouTube videos. So I'm just gonna keep the same music. It's not like I'm gonna remove the music just to try to replace it with something trendier. Like for example, I did the video today, and often I use the intro of my video as a bit of a trailer, and so that's sort of my hook at the start of my YouTube video, and then I can just put that, re-edit it in a vertical form, but I keep the content the same, and I just use it as a reel or as a YouTube short, and so there's already a music track from Artlist or Epidemic Sound on there. I'm not gonna swap it. I'm just gonna leave it there. But if I'm doing like a little edit, like a basketball edit for Instagram specifically, then I'll probably use something commercial, and that's available on Instagram, obviously. And yeah, I'll do that. But also, I've used a platform called Licked, Lick apostrophe D. Yeah, and they sell licenses for profession for commercial music. They don't have like every tracklet, very far from it, but there's a few. There's some Drake, there's some Justin Bieber, there's some old school stuff as well, like from the '70s. There's some Rolling Stone. There's a bunch of there's from all different styles and some very big and very big names in all these different styles. But there's 3 or 4 Justin Bieber songs, 5 or 6 Drake songs. Like it's not like it's their whole library. Like so.
But how do
If you
the
find
rights work
something
with
you
that?
like,
They just license you the right for a certain time?
you pay to use it once in one YouTube video, and it's a little bit more. Well, now they've got a subscription thing now. So like if you pay for a monthly subscription, then the songs I think are way cheaper, or maybe included in the subscription, but I'm not sure that you don't pay anything. But if you don't pay for a subscription, they use like I think at first it used to be like when there wasn't a subscription, I think if it depended on the size of your channel as well. But for me, for a channel my size, I think it would cost me like between 30 and $50 maybe for a track. And
It's not that bad.
but no, it's really not that bad if it's like a cool song that you like and that works well and that everybody knows. But to be fair, it's never made a difference in terms of views in my videos. So it's like if I feel like introducing the video with a cool song, or if I know that I'm gonna have like this long stretch of like I could have done that for my video for the Sony ZV-10 Mark II. Like if I'm gonna do a stretch of just like showing beauty shots to show the quality of the imagery, and it's the perfect opportunity to put a known song that has lyrics that's just gonna play, for a good 40 seconds or whatever.
It's the perfect time for you to play your Justin Bieber, right? Is that what you're thinking? You're like, I could
Exactly.
use that Justin Bieber song. Finally,
Yeah.
finally.
No,
I could,
to be honest, there's probably it's a bit like Apple TV. I don't know if you ever had Apple TV,
yeah,
but
but
there's a few good shows, but there's not that many shows. Like it's very
no,
limited. Like it's not Netflix.
no.
Like so it's a bit like that. So once you've used the 5 or 6 tracks that you like, yeah, there's not much left. You know what I mean? So yeah.
So I had a video uploaded a couple years ago. It's been about 4 years. So I think the video has like 90,000 views. Okay. And I had no issues with that video, music rights or anything like that for like the first year. And then
Mm.
boom, I don't know what changed or if the artist figured it out or what. I thought I got it off of one of my subscriptions. But maybe they're not with that platform anymore. But anyway, now I have a copyright issue. So, I mean, I'm not monetizing on that video anyway, but it is something that, like a channel like yours, where where you're monetizing off of it because you have enough subscribers. You have to be careful of that kind of thing. What do you do when that happens? You just say, okay, from this point on, I'm not going to make any money on that video, or do you change a song, or you delete the
Yeah.
video, or
Well, for me, like there's videos. Like when I started, like this originally Beyond the Game TV was a blog, and there was like gonna be videos on the website, and so YouTube. I didn't even think of YouTube at first, and then someone on my team, because yes, I did have a team at that point, was like said, YouTube's a video like platform, would be stupid not to use it. I was like, oh yeah, well, once we've posted something on our website, then we'll put it on YouTube like a month later or so. I think like once a month we would just do like a dump of all the videos we produced that month. But I didn't think you would be like, for me it's like the back then, we're talking maybe 2015, 2016, something like that. Like the idea was that on YouTube you might be making some change, but that was about it. Like so there was no incentive to make money. So I was just, let's just use whatever music we want, and we're gonna get copyright claims, but who cares? Like I'm not gonna stop myself from using cool music just so I can save like $4.50. But some of them videos they did do pretty well. Like there's a documentary that we did on Michelle Jenica, which is the dancing hurdler, the chick that went viral because she was dancing at the hurdles.
yeah, yeah,
She's Australian. Yeah, well, we met her. We did a couple stories with her. One of them did well over 100,000 views, but the second one I think now is at 650, 700,000 views, and I used commercial music the whole way through. So
oh
I'm
no.
thinking, yeah, if that one, if and there's a few like that I could have. I'm pretty sure most of my UFC stuff is like that until I realized that I could actually make money from this. So so yeah, it's more my early work that is full of commercial music because I didn't think I was ever gonna make money with YouTube, and but it's all right. I mean, I probably would have spent that money by now anyway. So
So what's your advice to people who are doing YouTube now to stay away from that stuff? Just get an epidemic license or something like that and use that and stay
well, I
away
mean,
from
copyright
commercial?
claims are never gonna hurt you. Like I've had, I don't know, I don't want to put a number, but I've had a lot of them. Like they're not an issue. So if you're just having fun, or if you're just trying to, try to get popular, and you think that commercial music is helping getting you there, then by all means do it. And once you get to a point where you're getting enough views that you're like, hold on, if I actually do things right, I might make, $50, $100 here and there, and that might pay for my next SD card, my next lens, my next whatever. So at that point, you can always stop and do it seriously. But before then, to be honest, using commercial music, you just always run the risk that some videos, like there's an artist like an ACDC or something that's going to block you, and then you'll have to delete your video and you re-export it with a new track. I remember I had something with a video like that because it wasn't even that I used, because it was basically a behind the scenes video, and they were in the PA. Someone was playing like Hurt, Wind and Fire or something like that, and it's just like during like pre-game the rehearsals, and you could hear it in the background, and that got my video blocked. And I was like, so basically, I put a different track that I put like a little echo effect on it to make it sound like it is coming out the same way. But yeah, my point is, if you're not making it, there's no issue in getting copyright claims during the first 2 years of your YouTube channel, and then decide to make money and then switch to going legit and getting a license, getting a subscription with Artlist or any other platform, and going from there. Like, you're not going to be penalized from what happened in the past.
Well, the socials have eased up too, right? Like over the last, 3-4 years, it's really changed where you can use commercial music on your reels and stuff like that. Before that, everything would just get blocked. Like I remember putting up like a Facebook post of my son's hockey back in Adam, and it all got blocked because of using Imagine Dragons at the time on Facebook straight up. Now they can use it, but the artists
Imagine
also
Dragon wishes you would use their music.
yeah, exactly. Actually, I've used it in quite a bit. It's pretty good for sports highlights. A lot of teams like that music for their hype videos. It's forever evolving, so you always got to check to see what you're able to do, what you're not able to do, and it's very tricky. I find with music anyway that's the hardest part.
Well, what's tricky is when the client asks you to put commercial music on their video, but then you know that if they get blocked or something happens, then who do you think is going to end up having to put a new song and then redo the edit and all that sort of stuff? So it's like, that's the awkward part.
That's why I use generic stuff. That's why I use epidemic sound and motion array and whatever I got going on that time. Because it's just easier. I know I give them the video, they're happy with it, it's approved, they can post it whenever they want.
Yeah. But I think two things. First of all, like, you can always, because sometimes you can have a subscription, but if they, like, sometimes my clients will have like a track in mind. Like they wanted, like, I remember one time for the Australian national soccer team, they wanted to use like the song from Stranger Things from the credits, and I was like, all right, but well, it was for stadium, so that wasn't an issue. But I know that like half the time they say, oh, sorry, it's just for in stadium, and then they watch the video and they're like, oh, it'd be so cool to put it on their Facebook page. And I'm like, yeah, no, like we had this conversation. I told you if you put that track on, you probably won't be able to. Like, oh yeah, that's right.
It's crazy, but I've had that same conversation with so many clients. That's why I kind of always tell them, like, I'm going to use generic stuff, and this is why. Because it does happen. You'll put together a banger video for them and you use like a really good song, and they're like, oh, it's just for internal. And then all of a sudden you go on their Facebook or Instagram and boom, there's the video. And you're like, oh, why did you use it that way?
Because the other thing as well with Artlist is that technically, yeah, like, because you say you use it for clients, but you need to pay. There's different types of licenses on Artlist. And if you have a personal license, just because you as an editor pay for it, if the music is on your client's YouTube channel, they're not covered. So they could still get, unless you got the more one of the more like the upper sort of level of subscriptions that include clients. So actually, I think Artlist, you can. I don't know. I'll have to check like the.
So what I've done in the past, I had a client that I was working with, and we are doing pumping out lots and lots of videos. I got them to get their own license. and then I had my own license, so I knew they were covered, and they didn't have to worry because we pumped out a lot of videos, and I didn't want any headaches, and they were willing to get the subscription just to make it smooth and to know that they were covered by the rights, and that's worked great. And if you have a client who's willing to get their own subscription, it makes it a lot easier. You don't have to worry about what subscription you have.
Yeah. Well, what happens more and more, especially with sports, like with teams that organizations that have a lot of that are pushing out a lot of content, they'll have a subscription with one or two, music libraries, and they'll either they'll either give you a password for you to access their account to download a track, or if you have access to that same library, you're like, okay, sweet, I'll just pick from there.
I think
But
with ethics, though, the hardest thing is the music. This might be different. This is probably one of the last questions on this, but since you went to Australia, right, and there's a different like culture over there, did you have any issues with like filming with a different culture, filming with maybe rules that you don't know, that you can or cannot film over there?
that perspective, not really. It was more understanding the games. Like it was more understanding new sports that I didn't know and the etiquette around those sports and the culture around those sports. But yeah, and understanding what's important to an Australian crowd. They're a lot less Hollywood than we are. They're a lot more into, I don't know. It's really more European, sort of like it's a team, it's a whole squad. It's not like here where like as soon as the season's over, everybody splits and they all have their personal trainers and they don't see each other until the first day of training camp, and they're legally not allowed to put step foot into the team facilities, and because of their CBA and stuff. Um, but over there, it's the opposite. They spend the entire year. They have like 3 weeks off, and that's it. They're always together. So the whole culture of sports is very team oriented. It's very so there was that it changes the dynamic of the videos and the pregame and all that sort of stuff. But no, from what not to film, not really. Well, I'd say in a way, like the main difference was that when I moved there, because everything it's not so much the case now because the internet now has just changed everything. But when I moved to Australia in 2011, movies were still coming out like 3 months, 4 months later over there. You know what I mean? Like in TV shows and things like that, they were behind on everything, mostly for just marketing purposes. Like if you can basically, for a movie, for example, like you do the States, like The Rock will do the States and promote the movie and then go to Australia. So they'll wait. And but TV shows, it's also like they'll have exclusivity and at the bigger prices, and then when it comes cheaper because the season's over, then it'll go to Australia. So like it was all everything was happening like afterwards. It was this, and so when I got there, it felt like everything I was doing as far as sports videography is concerned, everything they were doing was stuff that I was doing like 5 years ago. So I was almost able to predict the future. Like they were sort of starting that whole social media content, and like I was like, oh yeah, we need to produce these like behind the scene content and these little stories that we put on the website. Like that just didn't exist when I got there. So
Yeah.
they were like, oh man, this is amazing. These are some great ideas. I felt like I was in Back to the Future. it was really like that. And I made a business out of it. Like seriously.
So it
But
worked.
yeah, 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 definitely. But yeah, now like the internet's so quick that like they have to adjust because if you even the movies and TV shows, it's like if you don't get it out now, people are just gonna find their own way to it. They're not gonna wait for the local broadcast to do it. So yeah, everything's caught up. But yeah, it was weird that there's a lot of things that to me I just took for granted, and over there were just super complicated because they'd never done it, or it was just like stupid stuff like a t-shirt gun. It was just an insurance nightmare. Like they only started doing it probably 5 years ago. Before that, it was like, oh no, this is too dangerous. Imagine we hit someone in the face, and because ultimately it's always someone's job to say yes, and if that person says yes, then it's on them. So that person is always going to say no because I can't get in trouble if I say no. nothing's going to happen. If I say yes, that means something's might happen. And it's never someone on the team. Like ultimately the person who says, because over there, the way it works as well is that there's the stadiums, like no team owns a stadium. The state owns the stadiums. So the people who work at the stadiums who are in charge of saying, yes, you can have I don't know, a horse on the pitch, or yes, you can have a t-shirt gun, or yes, you can have these things. They have no skin in the game. It's not, they don't work for the team. They're not making money from your ticket sales, or they don't care if your pregame show is amazing. You're not turning off the lights. Why would you turn off the lights? This is a logistical nightmare for us. There's no way we're letting you turn off the lights. It's just, we've got nothing to win from turning off the lights. So turning off the lights is another thing that only has started happening maybe 6 years ago, 7 years, maybe. It's just like, yeah, it's just weird.
You know what? Every team has their own rules, though, right? Like certain locker rooms, you can't walk on the logo. Other ones you can. And you have to kind of learn that as you go along. So you have to be cautious at first and kind of figure out your environment. And it's scary at first because you like there's unwritten rules and ethics. Like when you're in a pro sports team locker room, you don't chat up everybody in that room. You just go and you get your shot sometimes and you go home. There's other times where you're doing features with players and then you have opportunities to talk with them and be buddy with them, and they'll ask you questions and it'll be a regular conversation, then that's fine. But if you're just there and a guy's minding his own business, don't go up to him and start asking for stuff. You don't ask for autographs. You don't ask for things like that. Those are all little unwritten rules that you have to figure out as you go. And it's tricky. You got to follow that fine line of what you can and cannot do. And the second you step on that line or that logo, someone's going to tell you. Yeah, yeah. Or you're not invited back, at least for a while, you know. You get demoted on that list of videographers. So it's tricky. So hopefully some of these little tips helped you guys along the way. Obviously, we know that I have way more ethics than E because he's like
for sure,
for sure.
I'm a maverick. I walk to the, what's the expression? I walk to the beat of my own drum.
That's it.
That's all right.
Well, I guess that's it for ethics. You have before we wrap up, you have anything for Q&A? Because I actually have a question that I got from a viewer.
No, I was so busy filming and editing that no.
I have a couple, but I'll only ask you one. I answered him on Instagram, but I want to see your take on this, okay? So it's from Stefan Knorr. In S-Log3, I overexpose to on my meter 1.3. So if I use an ND filter, should I change my exposure to 2.0? What do you think?
No, that makes no sense. No, you're exposed to whatever the light that's going into your camera. So if the ND filter is on, then less light is going in, but that's the whole purpose. That's why you're putting it there. But no, 1.3 is 1.3. If that's what you're going for, doesn't matter what creates it. That's still what you're going for, basically, because it's all external. Putting the ND filter is no different than a cloud passing in front of the sun. Like you wouldn't change it wouldn't change the value that you're going for in camera because the sun is not as bright as it was yesterday.
Well, that's it. So I explained to him in the message is the ND filter is a tool to help you lock your proper settings. So use that, like, so whatever your native ISO is, if you're in S-Log3, so on the A7 IV, the native ISO is 800. If I want to have an aperture at 2.8 and it's too bright and I want to bring it to a 1.3, I'll just lower that the f-stops on my ND filter to get the exposure that I want. Anyway, but it is tricky the first couple times you're using an ND filter. You think that, oh, am I supposed to do this? Am I supposed to do that? You're going to learn by trial and error, but it's just a tool to help you maximize your settings that you want. That's the whole purpose of it.
It's like people, I think, also lack a bit of self-esteem and confidence. Like just look at your monitor, just look at the LCD screen, and if it looks good, It probably is. It probably is. And if it looks dark, it probably is. And if it looks too bright and you can't see many details and the whites, the sky is like super white, then it probably is overexposed. Like just trust what you see. And the only time that like you really need to rely on your metering and other and zebras and stuff is when it's so bright out. You're filming outside and it's so bright that you actually can't really properly see your monitor. You're not really sure of what you're looking at. So in that case, yeah, definitely make sure you monitor everything. You know, as much as you can. You're peaking, all that stuff. But otherwise, you can still use zebras and all these other tools, but also just have a look.
You know what? I was filming at a pool on Tuesday inside. So I was at my second native ISO, which is 3200. Oh, there's your cat. My second native ISO, which was 3200, and I had my ND filter on, and I had it 5 stops, okay, and I was still a little bright. So then I just closed my iris a bit. I went to like f4, and my image was clean. I was debating, oh, should I just maybe lower the ISO? But I'm like, no. Let's do it the proper way. Let's get the cleanest shot I can. And the footage looks great. Changing it from a 2.8 to an open iris to a 4, it didn't do anything really. Yeah, my image was sharp, and that's what you want, a nice sharp image. So, you know, use your ND filters as a tool to lock in your settings. I guess that's it for today's episode. It's time for E to go play with his
Yeah, exactly.
the new adopted cat.
Yes, that's what my life has become. Well, it's gonna jump on the computer. It's been doing that while I was editing. That was a nightmare. Scratching the screen, stepping on the keyboard.
Oh man,
drinking my water. It's like,
all right. So tell the viewers, how did you get roped into babysitting a cat?
Long story. Friends on vacation, traveling, and yeah.
And you're at home running a YouTube channel, so they know you're not going anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. No, you should.
All right. Well, funny. I guess that's it for this episode of Game Day Glare. He's got to go feed his kitty.
Exactly.
All right.
There he goes.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Yeah.